A $250 million defamation lawsuit filed by Nicholas Sandmann against the Washington Post for their coverage of the incident in which he stood face to face with a Native American elder has been thrown out of court by a judge. The crux of the judge's decision was that the 13 articles and 3 tweets published by the Washington Post was that they were statements of opinion which are protected by the First Amendment. While the boy called the statement libelous, the judge decided they must be more than annoying, offensive, or embarrassing before they can be classified as such. For Judge William O. Bertelsen, the decision was really quite simple. Few principles of law are as well established as the rule that statements of opinion are not actionable in libel actions. The statements that Sandmann challenges constitute protected opinions that may not form the basis for a defamation claim. The Washington Post Director of Communications, Shani George, did have this statement. From our first story on this incident to our last, we sought to report fairly and accurately the facts that could be established from available evidence, the perspectives of all the participants, and the comments of the responsible church and school officials. We are pleased that this case has been dismissed. Now, similar lawsuits that have been filed against NBC and CNN are still pending. However, it seems very likely, in my layman's opinion, that this ruling here will be used as case precedent for the lawsuits against the other news organization. Now, the fact is that despite the fact that much of the alt-right vehemently defends these young men because they were acting in a very disrespectful manner, seem to forget that there was recorded incidences that took place before the actual standoff between Sandmann and the Native American elder, many of them being very disgusting verbal assaults on women, very clear hate speech. Now, obviously, this was an anti-abortion protest, and these kinds of protests do end up becoming particularly ugly due to the importance of the issue being discussed. However, this does not mean that the students of the Catholic school were above criticism. This is not right. For the Washington Post, this is a matter of freedom of speech. They are allowed to give an opinion even if you don't like it. I hear opinions that I don't like all the time. I don't go around suing everybody over it. Because that's a part of free speech, is people having differing opinions, just as they're allowed to have the opinion that women shouldn't be allowed to get abortions, one that I would very much disagree with. But I think that this very much speaks to the nature of debate in the United States right now. There is such vitriol being thrown by the right. I mean, there is much more going on here than simply just the standoff between the young man and the native elder. There was many verbal attacks that were made against women, much of the disrespectful behavior carried out others at this very same event as well. And then once this was criticized, the right immediately went into the media and attacked the elderly native man for having a history, a criminal history with relation to alcoholism. This, of course, was decades ago, as if a person isn't allowed to change. There are many people who suffer from addiction, and some of them overcome that addiction and change their lives. I don't think it's fair to bring that up in a situation that has nothing to do with it. I mean, this guy very clearly and freely admits that he struggled with substance abuse, as do a very high percentage of Native Americans. And as a result of this, it really showed the really ugly face that they were willing to go to things that had nothing to do with this situation in order to attack a man who was trying to de-escalate a situation. He wasn't even trying to make it worse. He wasn't even really making a statement. He was trying to diffuse a standoff that was going on. And all of this very much speaks to the nature of the alt-right and the lack thereof kind of honesty that they do have.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.